Tell me how the foundation was formed and what led to it.
I didn't know what to do. Once my MBA was done, the only thing that I had to do was settle my education loan, because that was an obligation. You have to do that. To settle that loan, I knew I had to do a corporate job, the kind that you get from an IIM campus. And I stepped into it. I settled my loan as fast as possible. Along with that, because I had my weekends free, so I was already doing what I could in the area I relatively had clarity on. So I picked up books that I especially liked and had read over the past 10-15 years, and figured out how they could be used to deliver leadership concepts, the real meaning of leadership. So I devised a course and proposed it to a few management institutes, and I would teach on the weekends. So I was seeing that the shape of the world can change only if the human being is changed from within. This much I was clearly beginning to see. So I knew about management campuses. I had the IIM Ahmedabad brand. I knew what students want. I knew what fits in there. So I could plan a course and take it to the campus and get it floated. And my weekends would be actually more occupied than the weekdays.
Okay.
So I was doing that and gaining exposure, seeing how the human being responds when taken to his own insides. When it comes to management education, it's about the markets, it's about the banks, it's about the supply chain, it's about recruitment.
Yeah.
And all of those things concern external objects. There's nothing in that which takes you within. So it was a new thing on those campuses. And I was teaching, and in the process learning. And then when my loan was done, I said, I'm done. So even the 3 years I was in the corporate sector, I switched thrice.
Okay.
So 1 year was my cutoff, because I knew I won't be here for long. So I wanted to see as much as possible before I take off. Not that anything had been set in stone or decided for final. But there was that hazy instinct which told me I don't belong here. I'm a misfit. I have to go. I couldn't immediately leave because the financial thing was there. So around the 12-month mark, 10-month mark rather, I would get fidgety and switch. And having made 3 switches, I said goodbye. And Advait Life Education was founded. Now I had the experience of the courses behind me, the courses that I had taught on weekends. So I expanded the scope of those courses, in fact diluted them a little, so that they could be taken to junior students. I was teaching postgraduates. Now I took them to BTech students. They were younger in age, especially the first yearites and the ones in second year. So an entire syllabus was drawn. The course was called Holistic Individual Development Program. And I took it to as many engineering campuses as possible. And the range of campuses was quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
One hand, I was teaching students from IIT and went to TIS, went to Symbiosis. There was IMT in Ghaziabad. On the other hand, there were students from a more average background, remote cities, interiors of UP, MP.
Okay.
So the entire spectrum was there. And HIDP as a course also was a work in progress. Every semester, new activities would be drawn. And that was something that I did very individually, very personally. It was a solo thing. All activities were made by me. And I had a team that would go and deliver the activities there, essentially teach the concepts using the activity, life concepts.
One question here. I mean, how did the team formation happen at that stage?
I would hire.
So you knew this is something that you want to take to places?
Yes. At the same time, it remained experimental for many long years because we didn't have a precedent and we didn't belong to any industry. So, and it was quite a task, first of all, teaching those activities to my own teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started out in 2008. Advait Life Education was founded in 2006, 2005 to be precise, by the end of 2005. And 2008 was when the activities that I was making, the syllabus that was there to be taught to the students, the life education syllabus, 2008 was when it took a decisively spiritual turn.
Okay.
So I said, I'm going all out now. So I was about to turn 30 then. And I said, it's time. Not that I was looking at my age, but coincidence. So 2006 was when this thing was founded. 2008 was when it really showed up its colors. You're taking me down some place I don't usually go these days. It's taking me some effort to recall, but it's wonderful. Yes, so 2006 we started. And at that time, the activities were more basic in nature. You remember I said I diluted the content that I was teaching to the MBA campuses? So 2008, there were two activities that I made. Yeah, and they were like my coming out declaration.
Okay.
One was called Kabir in Campus. The other was So Said the Sages.
So Said the Sages. Okay.
Anybody here who remembers either of those activities? Kabir in Campus is very famous in our circles. So Said the Sages. From the Upanishad. Wonderful. So think. and think of the response from my team of teachers. when I brought those Upanishadic verses to them and said they have to be delivered to BTech students. It was quite a task, but it was fascinating. And that point onwards, every single activity that I made was deeply spiritual. And that meant inviting a lot of problems deliberately. Because an MBA student or a BTech student or MCA or any of these professional courses. In India, professional courses basically means BTech, MBA, MCA and these things. We were not going to medical campuses, that's all. Otherwise, all kinds of courses we are covering. Architecture, that too.
Oh.
So, the student does not come to do his BTech so that he turns spiritual. Now, when this content is delivered in the classroom, then there is resistance. Yes, if one receives it with patience for a while, let's say 2 months, then there is appreciation of the light it is bringing and the change it is causing. But initially there is resistance. So there would be resistance from my own team, because they found teaching the general stuff much easier. This required a change in dimension.
Of course.
There would be resistance from my own team. There would be resistance from the students, from the parents of the students, from the college management, and from the faculty members in the college.
Okay.
Because this was so alien to the entire ecosystem that it became unacceptable. At the same time, there was the rigor and professionalism and sincerity that I was bringing to those campuses. So they couldn't dismiss me offhand. So they would remain grumpy, uneasy, but couldn't call it off. At least not immediately. But the entire process would remain challenging at all points. Students would say, is this going to give us a better career? Teachers would ask, is this going to lead to a betterment in their academic results?
They were looking for that instant results.
They were looking for what everybody looks for. Better marks in exams, better placements, or something that could be quoted as a CV point.
Correct.
So to the prospective employer, you could say, I have done this particular course. Now, they didn't know how to present it, what to make of it, where to use it. Though, if they would remain in the process within a semester, the effect, the benefits were perceptible. But you know how an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old is. To expect patience lasting 3 months is too much. So again, I said, it's my baby and I am taking the challenges upon myself. I cannot just send out my people to deliver the content if they cannot properly do it. Now I couldn't be present at several locations in the same moment. So the teaching team continued doing what they were doing. At the peak, we were dealing with some 50 campuses all at once, where the course had been floated, and the peak enrollment in any given semester was more than 15,000. That was around 2010-11. That was when my effort reached its zenith. And the teaching team was 80 to 100 members.
Okay.
And they were traveling all the time and going to the places as visiting members and delivering the content. And it was not yielding what it should. It was an immovable object that had probably historically not been very frequently challenged, that I had decided to take on. And every 15 minutes my phone would ring about something that was amiss somewhere, right? One particular class at some place, some city, some state. The call is coming from Punjab. One particular college in Ludhiana, the students have decided to boycott.
Okay.
All right. So even as you're thinking what to make of that, somebody calls you up and says, one faculty member has finally given up and she's saying, it's beyond me. And I'm not even going to come to the office and resign. I'm feeling quite ashamed about giving up. So can you just tell Prashant sir I won't be coming anymore? So that thing has opened up, and all kinds of things. At some place, the chairman or the owner himself cannot understand what is being taught, can't make head or tail of the syllabus. So he has asked the project manager from our side in his college for a meeting. And in that meeting, the fellow first expressed disillusionment, and then when he was explained the whole thing and couldn't still grasp it, he became aggressive. And this was routine, happening on a daily basis. So I said, fine, I'll get into it myself. I can't keep sitting in the office when the real delivery is happening at various places in North India. So I allotted every single day of the week, of the month, of the academic calendar. Udit, maybe you can help me with something that I'm missing. Because it was a long period of over a decade and I don't frequently recall it. So I might be missing some crucial points in the timeline. So I said I'll address the students personally and almost every day. 2 large gatherings every day, one in the morning slot and the other in the afternoon slot. So the gatherings would comprise of 100 to 400 students, depending on the attendance. And the morning slot would be 10 to 12 or 9 to 12, 2 to 3 hours. That was the duration of the interaction. The interaction was called Samvad. Then there would be an hour's break, and then 2 to 5 or 2 to 4 would be my second slot. And I would combine various batches into one and assemble them all in the institute auditorium. So if 6 teachers are teaching 6 batches, that amounts to 360 students. 60 is the usual batch strength. So I would say, fine, bring all 360 here together. Let me address them. And I would take their open-ended questions. Now that you are exposed to these wisdom activities, the HIDP, the Holistic Individual Development Program, life education, tell me what you're learning from it and what is it that you aren't satisfied with. What is it that you feel resistant against? And the students would come up with their questions. Many of the students were not just dissatisfied. They would be, if I may say, militantly unhappy. I have faced sloganeering as well. Because the activity can totally confound you. You're trying to take Vedanta and Upanishads to an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, and all that he wants is a fat check, a high-paying job. And he just cannot understand why for 2 hours he has to face this kind of ordeal. The usual session, the classroom session, would last 2 hours, whereas their regular engineering class would span only 1 hour. So that too would be point of friction. So they would come up and the questions would be quite pointed, even scathing. And I would answer them from a podium like this. Imagine this is a house full of youngsters, and they're throwing darts. They could fire missiles if they could. So, and the responsibility was on me to explain things, and by the end of my interaction, I needed to ensure that they understand. In some sense, they are converted now. A dissatisfied lot has now been converted into recipients of wisdom, that even after I leave their campus, they would still be listening to my teachers. Because I would visit one particular campus once a month or something. There were just so many campuses. I quoted at peak, we were handling 50 campuses. So by rotation, I couldn't visit one particular batch too frequently. So when I met them, it used to be a special event. I have come and I have to ensure that I put the house in order before I leave. And those interactions were recorded.
Okay.
Those interactions were recorded. So on YouTube, what you find today as videos from 2011 to 2015 are all mostly my interactions in college campuses.
Okay.
Today, if you watch those videos, it feels like a spiritual sermon. It was anything but that. It was a boxing match. It was no holds barred wrestling. Anybody could say anything, shoot anything, and you couldn't say, well, off limits.
Yeah.
It was war. It was war. It was war in which you had to prevail every single time. If you wanted to continue bringing wisdom to the students, you had to prevail every single time. Because one single event of loss of face would have meant discontinuation of the program in that campus. And that discontinuation was something everybody wanted. Students, their parents, the faculty members, the management, probably my own teachers. So, my entire mission was put on the line many times every single day. It's like your baby being on the ventilator for many long years. Anything could happen any day, any hour. You had to succeed all the time. Your success rate has to be 100%. So that gave my entire effort a very earthly flavor. You cannot speak to students and give them metaphysical crap. You have to have solutions for their everyday problems. If you want to convince them that wisdom literature is good for them, then prove it. So I had to actually prove it. I had to actually deliver continuously. So I said that gave my entire effort a very earthly outlook, which means I couldn't talk otherworldly stuff to them. And that has remained with me to this date. I cannot talk to you about the heavens and the gods, but I can talk to you about what plagues us today right here in our lives intimately. The students taught that to me. I cannot tell them I'm taking you to Samadhi. But if they say that they are anxious, I must have something for their anxiety. So anxiety matters, not Samadhi. Just that it was needless to tell them that freedom from anxiety itself is Samadhi. That you need not tell them. So I learned the language that works with the worldly man. That happened between 2008 and 2015. It was war. It was an all-out war, and war in which you couldn't afford to lose even a single battle on any single front. And very humbly, I would like to say that I don't remember any particular interaction where what I was representing had to lose. I don't remember any particular recording that we would need to decide not to publish because it involved no value or a defeat or a loss of face, nothing. Every single thing that was recorded there would be then put on a public platform for the entire world to watch. It was a very deliberate decision not to hide anything. And that decision was taken to enforce that kind of discipline where even a single loss is not acceptable. So if a question comes your way and you don't know what to do with it, publish that. Publish that so that you ensure that such a thing doesn't happen again. So that your own attention remains deeper. So that your own learning, your own reading intensify, magnify, and deepen. So we decided to publish everything, and that is also the reason why a lot of technically very suboptimal videos are there on the Foundation's channel even today. Videos from that period. Because we said we aren't putting anything in junk. If it has been recorded, it will be published. Initially, it was published so that the particular campuses could watch it. Then, within a few months, we realized that since the activity being conducted is the same across campuses, so if we publish it, then all our students are watching it. The student base was 10,000 plus. The alumni base was 1 lakh plus. So, some of them were watching it. And then within a year, we realized that even the general public is watching it. And we were publishing everything, and having realized that people are watching it, I could see that the time is coming. I could see that the thing can no longer remain confined to particular campuses. That I have to reach out to the masses in general. Also, as I have said twice, there were constraints while operating in the campus. You have to carry the limitations of the institute timetable and many other things. There were so many mediators, you see. I was the one trying to teach. The students were being taught, and in between were my own faculty members, the institution with its entire chain of command, starting from the chairman, the director, the dean, the HOD,
Right.
the senior faculty, the junior faculty, and anybody could play any kind of negative role and try to even veto the process.
Yeah.
I needed to remove the intermediaries. And so 2015 end, Prashant Advait Foundation was founded. We said we aren't dealing with campuses anymore. Here I am, and I'll be floating my programs on my own platform. Come to me. So being with institutions afforded you their infrastructure. You could use their auditoriums. So many things were. Now we were on our own, but we somehow managed. No captive audience was guaranteed anymore. You couldn't say, this is a batch of 60 students and they'll have to listen to me. Now people were enrolling out of their own free will. And it was like, again, starting from scratch, a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And quite an interesting beginning. The initial members of the foundation, a lot of them were students of the HIDP.
Okay.
So those who had done the HIDP in their campuses,
Mm-hmm.
after graduating, they joined the foundation.
Okay.
In fact, the entire lot came from there.
Mm-hmm.
2015, those who joined us, 15, 16, those who joined us, with a couple of exceptions, all of them from the campuses where we taught.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a certain intimacy, and a lot of things were already clear to them. So we could do things that are difficult to do in a usual kind of professional organization. For example, my young team didn't find it odd to distribute books on roads. So more than half of our activity comprised of putting up stalls of books. Books that were products of the interactions we had in the discussions on HIDP. So books came from there. Those same recordings were transcribed and made into books.
Sure.
And then those books were distributed, and the proceeds from there were used to run the foundation financially. And now I could devote myself more completely to wisdom camps and online courses. The first camp had happened in 2010.
Okay.
So it was about taking my core group of faculty members and a few bright students to the Himalayas. And there we would sit and go through advanced readings, because the syllabus that was being delivered in the campuses, you remember, it was diluted one.
Yeah.
It wasn't everybody's cup of tea. That reminds me of this. So there were certain quite receptive and bright students who would be hungry for more. They were my delight. It was actually those students that kept the whole thing fed at the level of inspiration. Otherwise, it was all quite very soul sapping. Nobody wants you. But I had my good kids. Not too many of them, but yes, they were a decent lot. So they would want more. And when these camps are organized, so there would be some 15, 20 faculty members, almost an equal number of students. And there were several destinations in the hills we would go to, quite often by the side of the Ganga. It was allowed then. Now you can't camp by the riverside. Back in 2012, 2013, it was possible. And so the camps were already happening. And they were delightful, wonderful. I wish I could go back to them. Those camps intensified once we decided that we are going public. So 2016 onwards, the camps became a monthly fixture.
Okay.
In fact, not just monthly. Firstly, they became bi-monthly, then weekly. So there was a period between 2016 and 2019 when I would be traveling every week to a new city, to a different city, to conduct a camp there.
Okay.
So I was on the road or on the rails or flying all the time. Before I could come back and look at the business here, it was time to fly to the next city. And because the interaction was continuous, I was speaking for 2 hours, 4 hours every single day. A lot of literature was generated from there. And it's still being generated at an even higher rate. And from that came all these books.
Yeah.
And even today we are publishing at the rate of 2 new titles every month.
Every month?
Every month. So a few of them have gone on to become bestsellers. A few others remain more sedate. And yes, that's a very incomplete sketch of how the whole thing has been. I would require help to fill in the blanks.